Charter schools are an ever-expanding educational phenomenon in public education in the United States. They are usually opened as public schools that operate within traditional public school systems, but they operate with more autonomy within the system.
There are traditional public schools and there are public charter schools, but a public school is funded by the public and is an open enrollment school, and both of those things are true about charter schools as well.
So what is a public charter school, and how does it operate differently from a traditional public school?
A charter school is a public school that's freed from certain regulations and conventions of public education in return for total accountability for results.
Charter schools are public schools that are held accountable for results, open by choice, and free from most rules and regulations that typically hamstring most other public schools.
It is difficult for most people and parents to understand the operations of a charter school and how the process of opening a charter school works within the already existing school system. So how are charter schools created? Educators that wish to start a charter school must first draft a plan for the school's operation and a mission statement for what they hope the school will accomplish. Then they submit a charter application to a charter school authorizer, who is an organization that will oversee the school's operation and hold them accountable under contract. The charter founders and the authorizer will work together to get funding for the school and create a timeline for its opening. The authorizer will oversee the hiring of faculty and staff for the school and will help in the process of creating a school board, which, unlike traditional public schools, is usually appointed, not elected. The school leadership and the authorizer will then work to secure a facility for the charter school, which is not paid for by the state government as it would be with a traditional public school. After the facility and staff are prepared and the contract has been signed for a 3 to 5 year agreement with the authorizer, the school can open its doors.
A charter school can often provide a different educational model. They have the flexibility to do that legally and just operationally because they don't necessarily have a larger school district who's dictating different policies or curriculums. So a charter school can be beneficial in that it provides another option and a different or more innovative option for families.
I would define a charter school as hope and opportunity that needs to be filled. The idea of allowing really talented educators and really talented people to create schools that can work better than what we currently have for kids and families is an inspiring kind of hope and opportunity, especially for kids and families that need something better than what they're currently getting.
The reason we have charters to begin with that are offering these options in sort of a less constrained, more flexible environment to serve students is because doing the spending and serving students in the ways traditional schools have served them does not work for the vast majority of students.
There were teachers who had ideas, who had things they thought they could bring to bear, sort of a whatever it takes mentality.
There's nothing about the concept of charter that is inherently better. It's the opportunity to make that choice and to allow those schools to respond to the needs of customers in a very different way, including teachers as customers, that can potentially make them a better educational enterprise for everyone, or at least for some segment of the population.
America spends more per pupil on public education than any other country in the world, and our results still lag behind many of our peers. The amount of money that we spend on education has increased dramatically over the past 3 or 4 decades, and our results have been stagnant.
I remember going into buildings that had every flavor of school improvement that you could imagine over the past decades, and still, kids not only weren't getting what they needed, but even teachers and parents, the administrators, just all seemed like they couldn't get this done in some of these buildings. And in those situations, I think folks in the community were sort of throwing up their hands. What can we do? How can we fix this?
Charter schools come with a long list of risks as they open, but some educators point to the alternative educational models and autonomy utilized by some charter schools as the key reason to take that risk for children.
The best and strongest laws allow for a high degree of autonomy and the ability to be flexible in that educational environment and not have to respond to what is often kind of cultural artifacts of school districts.
So a lot of times in large school districts, the individual schools inside of the district don't always have the ability to make school-based decisions that they think are right for their kids. And it's nobody doing this on purpose, but a lot of our large urban school districts kind of centralize many of the services and mandate certain things from the central office, where I think charter schools are one example of individual school leaders knowing what's right for their kids and having the ability to make mid-course corrections.
Charter schools operate with a higher degree of autonomy, but that freedom can come at a price. Authorizers who control the contract of the charter school and its ability to meet state standards can choose to not renew the contract after a 3 to 5 year period.
The authorizer is and should be the most rigorous, objective force and entity, but that's still somewhat dispassionate to how things are being done as long as they're meeting their goals. And so the tension today is there's a push for authorizers to become more regulatory, more imposing, more demanding of what's happening in an attempt to supposedly prove that all schools, that they can be the best schools possible. But the reality is the more we push authorizers to take on that role, the more we're making them look like traditional school districts.
While my role is to be hands-off and to hold a school accountable while protecting their autonomy to make school-based decisions that are in the best interest of students at the ground level, I also have a lot of resources at my disposal and connections in the city. And so if I can be helpful to a school by connecting them to those resources when they ask for it, then I'm happy to do that. The ultimate responsibility of school performance is their governing board. And so it's my job to hold them accountable to that. Their job is to hold their school leader accountable to getting results, whose job it is to hold their teachers accountable for high quality instruction.
Authorizers ought to really support the mission of these schools and understand that one of the facets of a great charter school movement or a great charter school sector is that those schools are a little bit freer from regulation in return for results.
When a child moves from a traditional public school to a charter school, the public dollars allotted for that child moves with them. These dollars shift hands frequently, as some charter schools may only stay open for 3 to 5 years before closure.
Kids don't belong to schools, all right? They belong to their parents. And no school is entitled to any set amount of money or any set amount of kids. Again, if we're going to put students first in this, we need to make sure that students are first, not adults, not school buildings, or school instructors or facilities. This doesn't have to be a zero-sum game either.
Charter school authorizers are seldom held accountable when a school is not going to have their charter contract renewed, and communication between authorizers and school administration is reported to be minimal by most school administrators.
I think if an authorizer is doing a service to the school, that regular monitoring, regular communication should be happening, meaning I should know whether or not we're going to be renewed, because I should have known up to that point, had we done the things that the authorizer asked us to do. So if after reviewing us after year 1, you saw that there were certain areas that we needed to work on, we had that conversation, the expectation is that year 2, those things have been worked on. And then at the end of year 2, if there were some expectations of, I need you to take care of this, so that year 3, those type of conversations or supportive conversations have not happened.
We're visited twice a year by someone from the state, which is 5 times more over these last 3 years than we've been visited by someone from our authorizer.
It's actually pretty unfortunate that someone or folks who are a part of the education world would rely so heavily on test scores to make a decision versus testimonial versus growth over time versus history versus looking at the community and the need within the community for a school of this nature. It's even more disturbing that a decision was made about the closing of the school when in my 3 years here, I hadn't made contact with any of our authorizers prior to their coming to review our charter renewal.
If there is a problem, that particular person in our Office of Charter School may make a visit to the school to talk about what's going on, provide suggestions on how they might be able to correct the deficiency or the problem that exists. And so to set up a quarterly, no, but on a needs basis. But annually there are reports that come in, and a report is created annually for a school. It would be at the end of a charter agreement where we would say to them, this is not working, and therefore we choose not to renew your charter. However, there are schools that we have closed during the period of the charter.
When a school is going to be non-renewed, or has chosen not to apply for renewal because they know they are not serving students and families well, then we work with the school and the community to ensure that families understand why the school is being closed, that they know what their other options are in the community, and we work with them tirelessly to ensure that they have the opportunity to make another choice for their student.
It's a huge undertaking to think, and a huge jump, maybe sometimes a leap of faith. Whether you're a parent or a student or a teacher, I'm going to join a school and be part of something that I'm not even sure will be here. Where I went to school, it was there for 100 years, or my school was there for 30 years. And the reality is that what makes the promise of charters, albeit tenuous, really amazing, is not only the record we now can look at, which is that these schools have actually not just transformed schooling for some students, but it's transformed how districts are run, it's transformed how states are run, it's transformed how we think of standards, it's transformed how we think of teacher performance. And so it's transformational for anyone involved, and they have the ability to influence.
Charter school initiatives start with a lot of hope and promises for a better education, but those promises can go unfulfilled for children, and they often do. Nearly 3,000 charter schools have been shut down over the last decade.
Charters are not promised. Charter schools are not promised. There's no guarantee. You have some, like you said, you have so many closing. So my child can get adjusted to go in here 2 years, but there's no guarantee that third year they're going to be able to come. You know, would I recommend charter? I would recommend, no, I wouldn't, to be honest. I would say do your homework, see where the charter is, you know, as far as the grade, where they are academically, you know, where their test scores are, because these are the things that Ball State graded us on. You know, see where they are before you enroll your child in a charter school.
I would never maintain that this school has been entirely effective for everybody. I'm not satisfied at all with the quality of the service that we provide. I am also worried about the kids and families who now are forced to make another change in their life that may be pretty rocky for the kids in their education.
These kids that we are uprooting, they're our future. So when we come in and say we're closing, their mindset is why, and what did we do wrong?
If you're a parent and you send your kid to a charter school, you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
One of the other pieces with the charter world, it's a numbers game. It's a money game. And unfortunately, there are some politics that are involved that unfortunately don't take into consideration the long-term effect or impact that it's going to have on our students who have left their home schools because they weren't successful there.
While the face of public education in America is changing, charter schools continue to expand and grow, and with current growth trends could represent 10% of all schools in 10 years. Charter schools will be part of the public education landscape moving forward, and educators are looking for ways to work together.
Charter schools aren't the only answer, though I think that high-performing charter schools do tend to provide quality options, especially for low-income kids that oftentimes lack access to high-quality educational options. So I see charter schools as one way to really improve the lives of a lot of kids in our city.
We're trying new things and learning more about how to make educational opportunities of quality that are successful. What I would hope to see in the future is more innovation and some things that are really out of the box.
The more we can move beyond the politics and get down to the nitty-gritty of how are these things working together to help kids? How are we solving more problems? How are we meeting special ed needs? How are we making sure transportation is available to get every kid to a school that's right for them? Those are the types of questions I think we can now begin to answer and kind of move beyond the politics.
I'm a proud dad of 2 girls, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they share many similarities, but they're also very different and have different needs. I think the beauty of creating schools that have a specific way in which they engage kids, or have a diversity of ways, across education sectors to engage kids, is really important. Whether that's a charter school or a district school or a magnet school or a private school, whatever kind of a school it is, finding the school that fits your kid the best is a huge advantage. And the advance of the charter school work has provided a more diverse array of schools for parents to choose from. And the high quality ones are doing kids a high service for their life outcomes.
If we're focused as a country on the values of equity and equality and equal access for everybody, regardless of race, class, or zip code, then it's a travesty that we're not providing quality access to everybody that lives in our country.
Just because of where you live or what you look like is a destiny to a low quality education just isn't true. And those really high performing charter schools, especially in urban areas, are very, very clearly showing that that is a myth and that all kids can learn at extraordinarily high levels. Not that charters are the only entities doing that. There are certainly some district schools and magnet schools and other schools that are doing tremendous work on behalf of kids and families. But I think we are seeing in the charter sector, especially the high performers, that it is very much worth the investment.
Jean, baby, stop looking so sad. I've seen the future, it ain't looking that bad. The trees were higher, you were still there. I'm not supposed to tell you anything about it. You say that all is over now, but I've seen it, you get through somehow. You must find the way, 'cause I've seen it, you get through someday.